The international terminal buzzed with the usual harmony of movement and noisy, layered soundscape of suitcase wheels humming over polished tile, intercom voices drifting overhead in multiple languages, the soft laughter of families reunited, and business travelers glancing at their watches with practiced indifference. It was a typical morning for most, but not for a 16-year-old girl who walked quietly through it all with a presence as unobtrusive as a shadow cast before dawn. Her name was Nia Templeton. Petite, reserved, with dark braids pulled neatly back, she moved like someone who had learned to disappear without ever being taught. Her gray hoodie hung loosely around her shoulders. Her navy blue backpack was secured with care, and her sneakers made no sound against the glossy floor. No one glanced her way. No one recognized her. But within the next few hours, that would change. Her name would travel through boardrooms, headlines, and households across the country, not because of anything loud or defiant she said, but because of what she didn't. Nia's journey that day was supposed to be simple. She had just completed a competitive summer research program in Boston, a national youth initiative for emerging science talent, and her godmother had gifted her a first-class ticket home to Atlanta. Not just any ticket. Seat 3B, first class, Horizon Airlines Flight 263. It was her reward for acing the program and a subtle lesson from a mentor who believed she belonged in every room, regardless of who thought otherwise. Her godmother, Lydia Travers, was known far beyond the circles of family. She was director of aviation safety at the FAA, a woman revered not for her volume, but for her precision. Lydia moved systems without threats, restructured entire chains of command with a single letter. She was calm, deliberate, and unwavering. When Lydia gave you something, especially a seat, you didn't question if you deserved it. You just took it with grace and sat tall. Nia boarded early, walking the jet bridge alone while others still clustered near gate 47. She handed over her boarding pass, received a perfunctory nod, and stepped into the cabin. The first-class section was sleek and hushed, lined with leather seats and polished wood accents. She made her way to seat 3B, tucked by the window, and sat down softly, tucking her bag beneath the seat. She didn't recline. She didn't press the service button. She placed a book in her lap and let her earbuds dangle without plugging them in. It was enough just to breathe. But not everyone in that cabin could leave things untouched. The lead flight attendant walked in moments later, tall and rigid, with hair pulled into a flawless chignon, a uniform so pressed it looked sculpted, and a polished brass nameplate that read "Mess Harrington." Her eyes swept the cabin, evaluating without expression until they landed on Nia. She paused, her perfectly shaped brows furrowed slightly, then relaxed into something colder. She stepped forward, heels clicking against the floor, and stopped just beside seat 3B. "Excuse me," she said with a rehearsed warmth that failed to reach her eyes. "I think you're in the wrong seat." Nia looked up, startled but polite. "This is 3B, right?" "It is MS." Harrington replied, holding out her hand. "Can I see your boarding pass?" Nia pulled the paper from her hoodie sleeve and handed it over. "MS." Harrington barely glanced at it before frowning. "There must be a mistake," she murmured, though loud enough for others to hear. "We typically don't issue first-class seating for student fares." "Who booked this?" "My godmother," Nia answered quietly. "MS." Harrington's eyes flickered with skepticism. "And she bought this seat for you?" Nia nodded. The attendant hesitated, then gave a tight smile. "Well, we'll just straighten this out. In the meantime, I need you to move to the back so we can continue pre-boarding." Nia froze. She looked around. No one met her eyes. No one offered support or said a word. The other first-class passengers shifted slightly, some pretending not to notice, others watching with poorly concealed interest. Silence expanded like fog. Nia stood. She did not argue. She did not cry. She walked the long aisle down past expensive briefcases and polite indifference, toward the rear of the plane where economy seats clustered in rows, and no one asked who you were. She found an empty window seat and sat down. The walls of the plane felt narrower here. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled out her phone. She typed just 3 words into a text. They moved me. Sent it to one person. Seconds later, her screen buzzed. Lydia Travers, why? Nia. She said there must have been an error. Didn't believe I belonged up there. A longer pause followed. Then, just one line from Lydia. What's your flight number? Nia replied. Then, stay in your seat. Don't say anything else. I'll handle it. She didn't know exactly what Lydia meant by that, but she did what she was told. In the cockpit, Captain Miles Denham was performing a final systems check when a direct communication alert lit up on his screen. The message came from FAA operations, not unusual in itself, but the contents were: hold the aircraft. FAA review protocol active. Do not taxi. He blinked at the screen, then looked at his co-pilot. Problem? The co-pilot asked. Yeah, Captain Denham said, but not mechanical. Outside, boarding was complete. The aircraft door was closed. And yet nothing happened. 10 minutes. Then 20. Passengers were beginning to stir. Someone rang the call bell. Someone else asked why the plane hadn't moved. In economy, Nia remained still, her phone face down in her lap, Lydia's words echoing in her head like a quiet drumbeat. In first class MS. Harrington stood sipping a bottle of water in the galley, convinced that the disruption had passed. She had resolved the issue. The student had been relocated. The seating order restored. But just behind her, another flight attendant named Devin Morris had been watching. He had seen the girl, had watched her hand over a valid ticket, had witnessed her confusion, her quietness, and then her walk of shame. And now, watching MS. Harrington pat herself down with a smug calm. Devin found he could no longer keep quiet. She had the right ticket, he said. MS. Harrington turned, smile faltering. Excuse me. You didn't even check the system. You looked at her, decided she didn't belong, and kicked her out. MS. Harrington's eyes hardened. I followed standard procedure. No, Devin said, voice low but firm. You followed your assumption. There was no time for response. In the cockpit, another message came through. This one wasn't just from the FAA. It was from Director Lydia Travers. And the entire flight was now under administrative hold. Within 20 minutes, 2 federal agents in dark suits boarded the aircraft from the jet bridge. They wore badges, not weapons, and their expressions were stone calm. They approached the front of the aircraft. Flight Attendant Harrington, one agent said, voice quiet but authoritative, we need a word. MS. Harrington paled. They didn't drag her out. They didn't scold her publicly. But the weight of their presence said everything. Passengers whispered now. Someone in row 2 murmured, that's the girl, right? A woman in 4C whispered, I saw her moved. I thought it was odd. The tension wrapped around the cabin like a second skin. The agent turned toward economy. Nia, Templeton. She looked up. Would you come with us, please? Nia stood slowly, walked the long aisle back to the front not as a reprimand, but as a reckoning. The cabin watched her go, and no one said a word. In the front compartment, near the crew station, Nia sat, facing MS. Harrington across a metal table. The FAA agent stood at either side. We need to hear both of your accounts, said the lead investigator. MS. Harrington cleared her throat. She looked like someone who was confused about her seating. The agent didn't move. Did she have a valid ticket? Yes, MS. Harrington admitted. Did you verify the manifest before relocating her? No. And why not? Silence. Then quietly the answer slipped out. Because she didn't look like someone who belonged in first class. That was it. The entire truth. A sentence that collapsed 20 years of practiced politeness, hollow procedures, and silent judgments into one irreversible act. Outside the cabin, passengers were still waiting. Some uncomfortable, some reflective, some ashamed. MS. Harrington was escorted off the aircraft. Nia was offered her seat back. She walked past rows of eyes, some apologetic, some unsure, some deliberately averted. But her steps were steady. She returned to seat 3B, sat down, and folded her hands in her lap. And this time, no one questioned it. The plane departed nearly 2 hours behind schedule. But no one complained, because Flight 263 wasn't just delayed. It had become a mirror, and no one liked what they saw. In Washington, Lydia Travers stood in front of a panel of federal transportation leaders. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't point fingers. But she said this. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a moment. And if we don't change something now, we're signing off on every silent injustice that follows. That week, Horizon Airlines announced new verification protocols. No seat changes allowed without cross-checking the manifest. Mandatory anti-bias training for all frontline staff. And an anonymous FAA-linked incident reporting app went live. MS. Harrington was let go. Not for optics, but for cause. Because a uniform should never be used to justify exclusion. Because a boarding pass is a contract, not a test. And because one girl, who said almost nothing, made an entire system stop in its tracks. Nia never gave an interview. She never went viral on purpose. But a blurry photo of her seated quietly, backpack at her feet, went everywhere. And beneath it, the caption that changed everything. She had a valid ticket. I saw it. And they still sent her away.